For this lesson we're going to look at an Irish tune called the Connaughtman's Rambles. You'll have to forgive my pronunciation. If anyone knows the correct one, please do get in touch. This is an Irish jig, and jigs are in 6/8 time signature, which is a little different to our more regular 4/4 and 3/4. So before we learn the tune, I just want to have a look at how we play in 6/8. So 6/8, first of all, you count it a bit differently. In 4/4 and 3/4, you have sort of on and on beat, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, with the numbers being the on beat and then the and the off beat. In 6/8 we don't really have that. You just count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's no ands in there. It's not 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each bar is split into two groups of 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And quite a few people, and sometimes I do it, they don't count up to 6, they just go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, depending on how you want to do it. So that creates a little bit of a problem with our right hand, because we now have two groups of 3. So if we were to play those two groups of 3, and when I say 3, we're talking about quarter notes or crotchets, sorry, eighth notes if you're American, quavers if you're reading music. So it's a group of 3 quavers and then another group of 3 quavers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we were to play those quavers like we would in 4/4, which is alternate picking down, up, down, up, down, up, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now if you watch my right hand carefully, what happens, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the second group of 3 actually starts on an upstroke, which could be fine, but when you're playing, especially when you're playing in Irish, you want to really accent the first of each group. It kind of gives you that Irish feel. You hear I'm accenting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if every other group of 3 starts on an up, it kind of makes it quite hard to accent that note. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It's kind of harder to do a nice clean accent on an upstroke. And it also, to me, it makes it sound like you're trying to cram a tune in 4/4 into a note, one with one note missing. So we have to play our right hand slightly differently, and we correct it by doing making sure that each set of 3 starts on a down. And that creates a little double down in between them. So it's down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down. And that's quite tricky. So for you beginners, especially if you've never come across this before, just take a bit of time now and just get the pattern of down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So every 1 that I'm counting is a down. 1, 2, 3, 1. And try and accent it as well. That kind of helps me if my right hand is struggling. Down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. And that helps you really kind of get the Irish feel. If I just play you an example of, let's say, the Irish Washerwoman, if you played it without doing the double down, it's okay. It sounds like the Irish Washerwoman. If I was to now play it down, up, down, down, up, kind of definitely gives it much more of an Irish jig feel with those emphases strung on the 1 and the 3. So just take some time now, just play that pattern down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, and make sure you've had a go at that before we move on to the tune. So I'll just break this tune down into a few phrases just so you can, rather than me kind of throwing you in at the deep end. So let's just try the first 2 bars. And I'll count this. It's kind of hard to count in a 1, 2. You could in 6/8. You could count in a load of times. I'll just go 1, 2, and that's where we come in. So the first phrase is this. Is like the first 2 bars. So let's just try that together. So the first 2 bars. 1, 2. So down, up, down, down, up. Then the next 2 bars is the second phrase. So we'll try bars 3 and 4 together. 3, 1, 2. And then bars 5 and 6 are very similar to bars 1 and 2. We'll try that together. Bars 5 and 6. 1, 2. And then bars 7 and 8 of the A part, just to finish us off. And it leads us back into 1 and 2. So let's try bars 7 and 8 of the A part. 1, 2. Let's try that again. 1, 2. Okay, so let's try the A part together. And if you're struggling with the down, up, down, down, up, as I said before, I always find it really helps me if I overemphasize the first one of each beat. So really overemphasize it to make sure you're playing it down on that one. Okay, so after 2, the whole A part. 1, 2. So that's the A part. If that's too quick for you, don't forget YouTube has a slow down function. If you press the kind of the cog in the corner down here, you can slow that down to quarter speed until you get it up to about that speed. You'd be glad to know the B part, I think, is a little bit easier to play, but it does need you to get your little finger working, which it does not want to do, but the very first note is the 7th fret of the B on the E string. So the first phrase of the B part, which is the first 2 bars, sounds like this. Sounds like that. So let's try that together after 2. This is the first 2 bars of the B part. 1, 2. Yeah, and then the next 2 bars are very similar. So let's try those 2 together. This is bars 3 and 4 of the B part. 1, 2. And then bars 5 and 6 are identical to 1 and 2. And then bars 7 and 8 are identical to bars 7 and 8 from the A part. Apart from a slightly different end note. So let's try the whole B part together, because it's kind of one phrase repeated and then kind of stolen from a few other areas. So this is the B part. 1, 2. Again, if that's too quick, don't forget, slow it down until you get it up to speed. What I think we should do now is we're going to play it all together, roughly about that speed. We're going to do 2 A's and 2 B's. So this is the Connaughtman's Rambles, and don't forget, as always in these videos, I'll have a metronome in, so you don't need to worry too much about staying in time. Just make sure you're playing along with me, and get that right hand down, up, down, down, up. So before we start, this is the speed. That's about how fast we're going. So after 2, here we go. 1, 2. repeat the B part. So there we have it, there's the Connaughtman's Rambles, and if you kind of want to hear it a bit more up to speed, it would sound like this. That's kind of how it sounds a bit more up to speed. And now what I want to talk about to finish this lesson is the chords, because playing chords in 6/8 is also, you kind of have to think about it differently, just like you have to think about your right hand differently, because there's no offbeat, so we can't do our usual kind of chink rhythm, and we have to think a bit more differently. So I want to give you 3 options that you can do in 6/8. There's 1,000 different ways you can play the chords in 6/8, and I'm certainly no expert in 6/8 chords, but I can just give you 3 variations of ways you can play the chords, so you have a bit of ammunition in case you end up in a jam session and you don't know the tune and you want to play the chords in 6/8. So the first option is just to do a simple strum on each chord. There's still, like 4/4, there's still most of the time 2 chords per bar. So one chord covers one set of 3 notes and your second chord covers the second set of 3 notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in the case of the bar 1, it's 2 Ds, so D, 2, 3, D, 5, 6, like that. So you could just do a strum per set of 3 notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. You just do a nice little simple strum. So if you take the first 2 bars, that would just be D, 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 with a G there in the third one. So D, 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 and that sounds absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Your second option is to take it way to the other extreme and fill in all of the notes and kind of get like an arpeggiated way of playing chords. So what you do is you would do a strum on the first one of each 3, and then a little arpeggiated run on the second and third note of each group of 3. And again, the first 2 bars would sound like this. And sped up, it's kind of like a... So you're sort of playing every note basically, and the first one of each 3 is a strum. That's really hard. That's really hard to kind of play full stop, never mind for 2 A's and 2 B parts. So I kind of like to find a middle ground, and when I'm playing chords in 6/8, I have a rule. This is just a personal thing. If there's one chord that covers a whole bar, so for example bar 1, it's a D chord for both. So that gives you a bit more space because you're not having to worry about changing hands. So if there's one chord in the bar, I would do a strum on the first of the groups of 3, and then a little arpeggiated run on the second group. So it'd sound like this. Like that, something like that. So if I just did a lot of bars of D, it'd sound like this. So strum, strum, like that. That's quite tricky. I suggest you just get that under your finger. Try it over an easier chord, maybe over a G. So you strum in on the first beat of each bar, basically. And then if you used to come across a bar that had a chord change in it, so the first group of 3 had one chord and then the second group of 3 had another chord, I would just stick nice and simple strums in there. So bar 2, I would just go D, D, like that. Simple. So for example, the first 2 bars put together would then sound like this. Okay? So now, I think what I'll do is I'll just very quickly play you how the A part would sound if I was to play the chords like that, and it would sound a bit like this. I'll do it after 2 again. 1, 2. So hopefully you can hear the bars where there's the same chord twice. I'm doing a strum and then a little pattern, and then when there's 2 chords in the bar, I'm just doing 2 strums. So to finish this lesson, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the melody again, 2 A's, 2 B's. I'm going to speed it up a little bit, and I want you to have a go at playing the chords. Whichever way you want, maybe try all 3, start with the simple strums and work your way up to kind of a bit more complicated patterns in the right hand. The metronome's set to 70 BPM, so your chords are about this speed. Okay, don't forget you can slow it down if you want to. So here we go, I'll play the melody twice and I'll shout where we are in terms of the sections. 1, 2. Repeat the A. Onto the B part. B part again. So there we have it. That is tricky, but it might take you a few goes, but it's definitely worth doing. It's useful to know how to play chords in 6/8. Make sure that your right hand is going down, up, down, down, up. And at the very least, hopefully I've taught you a tune that you enjoy playing. Certainly this is one of my favourite Irish tunes to play. And anything that we've mentioned today is on a worksheet which is linked below, so please do get it free. Hit subscribe if you've enjoyed this so you don't miss out on any more future lessons, and we'll see you next month.